Hello and welcome to my channel AceUrMRCP. I am Dr. Aparajita Roy and I am a specialist trainee registrar in diabetes and endocrinology working in the South East London Deanery. In today's video, I am going to talk about how you can be a consultant in the UK, and I'll talk about the CCT and the CESR pathways. So please keep watching. Now there are tons and tons of video and content on social media regarding CCT and CESR, which is better, which is not that good. I call this video the simplest video so that in 2 or 3 minutes I can tell you which is the right pathway for you depending on your circumstances. In order to be a consultant in the UK, you have to get yourself registered in the GMC register as a specialist. You can either do it by the CCT pathway or the CESR pathway. There is a third pathway where you can be a consultant by neither doing CCT or CESR, but that pathway you can only end up being a locum consultant and not a substantive or a permanent consultant. So to be a permanent consultant or a substantive consultant in the UK, you have to get yourself registered in the GMC register as a specialist either by the CCT pathway or the CESR pathway. If you ask me which one should you do, it's very simple. In one line, the answer is if you have already completed your training in your home country in the specialty you want to get registered yourself as a specialist, if you finished all the training, opt for the CESR pathway. But you haven't finished your training, you want to train further, you're not confident whether you'll be able to manage patients on your own as a specialist, then opt for the CCT pathway. That is the simplest answer in one line. That doesn't mean that you are confident in managing patients in your home country or your own landscape. You have to be able to see patients independently in the UK, following the UK guidelines within the NHS setting. So please bear that in mind when you're choosing between CCT and CESR. Okay, now why do I say that? Please keep watching this video to know more about this topic. Now, what is CCT? CCT is essentially a certification for completion of training, which is equivalent to, let's say, the DM or MCH in India. After you've completed your 4 or 5 years of specialist training, you get the certification that yes, you are competent enough to be an independent consultant or an independent specialist in this particular specialty, and you will be registered in the GMC register as a specialist. Now, what is CESR? CESR is a certification of equivalence where the candidate has to furnish evidence that their clinical experience, their academic achievements, basically their entire portfolio is equivalent to that of a CCT candidate. It is that simple. If you can furnish evidence that your work includes everything that is at par with the CCT trainee, you will be given an equivalent status as a CCT trainee and get yourself registered in the GMC register as a specialist. It is as simple as that. So if you've already completed your specialty training in your home country, for example DM or MCH in India or equivalent degrees in your home country, and you're confident that you can independently manage patients as a specialist, you have to submit your entire evidence to the GMC, who will meticulously go through every evidence before it is rest assured that you can be given an equivalent status to a CCT trainee. Now let's look into the pros and cons of CCT versus CESR. CCT is a very structured program. You enter the training program after a rigorous process of interview, and you do it as a cohort. So a group of candidates join into the training as an ST3 or an ST4, and they move forward in subsequent years up until ST7 or ST8 depending on the specialty, and they achieve the CCT degree at the end of it. CESR is not very structured. You do the entire journey as an individual. It is up to you to collect all the evidence, gain all the competencies, and get that signed off by your educational and clinical supervisors. In the CCT program, the competencies are signed off quite easily as they are very structured. There is a guidance, and all the competencies are easily captured in the e-portfolio. One of the downsides of CCT, could be downside or could be an advantage for a few, is that you have to rotate in different trusts. So every year or almost every 2 years you have to rotate to a different hospital within the same deanery. so that you get the opportunity to work under the supervision of various consultants. The advantage of that is you get to work in a mixture of DGH and tertiary centers. You get to work with a very wide range of teams, wide range of consultants, and as you can imagine, not all hospitals will have all services. So by rotating to a different hospital, you may be able to get exposure on a certain service within the specialty that may not be available in your parent hospital. But the problem with that is house moves every year. That might mean that you might not be able to buy a house for a very long time. You might have to relocate with your family, and the duration is roughly for 3 to 5 years, so it's a bit of a rigorous training program. In CESR, you remain in the same workplace. The advantage of that is you get to know the team you're working with very well. You build a rapport, you build relationship with your supervisors, with your colleagues, and that might help you gaining your competencies and getting your competencies signed off more easily. The downside of it is that if you don't get along with your team very well, or if you think your supervisor is not very supportive, then that might mean the process being hindered or the process being unnecessarily long. Also, if your place of work does not have particular services that are important for you getting the competency signed off, you might be asked to make arrangements with a different hospital to get those competencies signed off. There is no specific time limit for CESR. The sooner you get your competency signed off and submit the paperwork, better for you. CCT is very competitive, especially with international medical graduates joining from all over the world and competing with UK graduates. The numbers are getting tougher day by day. It's a very steep competition, but once you're in, you're in. In CESR, there is not much competition. It is your work that you submit. If it gets approved, you get the degree. CCT paperwork is pretty simple. It's mostly portfolio based, whereas CESR is known to have very tedious paperwork. It would also depend on what exactly your supervisor is happy to sign off and how much evidence you can collect from your home country if you have done a part of your training back there. So paperwork is one of the most off-putting things about CESR, but if you can manage the grind, then CESR might be the right thing for you if you've already done a part of your training overseas. In the end, it all boils down to you. It's your clinical experience, it's your expertise, research experience, leadership and management skills that you'll have to put in use once you're a consultant. So you are the best judge to look into your journey as a doctor to see, do you feel confident enough to be a specialist with your body of work? If yes, by all means go for the CESR pathway. But if you think you need a little bit more support, CCT training would be the better pathway. Also, of late I've been doing a lot of one-to-one consultations because of huge popular demand, and I've been also holding a lot of mock interview sessions for candidates who want to come and work in the UK just before their actual NHS interviews. So please reach out to me via email, which is given in the description box. Till then, stay safe, keep studying, and ace your MRCP.